All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Mark of Balance. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new Star Wars open world video game, Star Wars Outlaws from Ubisoft. We went from knowing nothing about this game other than the fact that it was an open world 2 days ago to now having a full-on story trailer and a 10-minute gameplay reveal trailer, which I so appreciate because I have hated the trend of what they've been doing with Star Wars games where they put out a very stylized cinematic trailer and then you just hear nothing about it for another 2-3 years. I'm talking about Knights of the Old Republic Remake and Star Wars Eclipse. Apparently those games are still happening, but I would much rather them do what Star Wars Outlaws is doing here. Announce the game, give us a trailer, give us a gameplay reveal. Even if this game didn't come out till 2025, I would have appreciated that they at least gave us something to latch onto that was at least representative of the game. And I gotta admit, I was really, really impressed with what they showed today with their gameplay reveal. I'm always going to be cautiously optimistic. It is Ubisoft, so take everything that you saw today with a grain of salt because these gameplay reveal trailers are just as much trailers as they are of actual gameplay. The developers can do so much more rendering. They can make sure everything's seamless. They can add stuff to the environment. Ubisoft is guilty of this. If you guys remember the first gameplay reveal trailer of The Division many years ago, the first gameplay reveal for that game made it look like it was 2 generations ahead of every other game. There was so much environmental detail. There was ray tracing. And then when the game came out, there was a lot less of that detail, and it was much more bare bones looking. So, again, just something to be cautious about because, frankly, this reveal promised a lot, and I'm hoping they're able to deliver on at least most of it. So before I want to jump into what we saw in the gameplay reveal, I do want to just talk about the overview of the game and what we know so far. We will be playing as Kay Vess, a girl just trying to find her way in the galaxy and navigate through the criminal underworld of the time between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So we know there's going to be a lot of criminal organizations involved in this game. We're going to be exploring that part of Star Wars, which is really, really exciting, and taking that classic story of a child just trying to find a way in their galaxy and putting that inside the world of the criminal underground. And also you have the Empire and the Rebellion fighting at the height of this Galactic Civil War. So that's also going on in the background. So we'll see how the Rebels tie into this, if at all. But I know the Empire is going to be a constant force throughout this game. And the big plot point that they keep reiterating in all of their marketing materials is that she needs to pull off this grand heist, the biggest one that the Outer Rim has ever seen, so that she could pay off her debts, get rid of her bounty, and live the life that she's always wanted to. Now, of course, I hope the story is much deeper than just a heist quest, which I think it definitely will be, but I'm hoping that's kind of the midpoint of the game, and the game really focuses on what she does after she gets out of the bounty. You know, where does her story go after that? What kind of person is she without this bounty on her head? Yes, there's already been their fair share of controversy around playing as a female main character. I think this is a very small portion of the fandom. Some dude bros, Sigma males that love Andrew Tate, tweeting that, oh, is there any more male protagonists in Star Wars? Like the last 3 shows we got weren't featuring male forward protagonists. Again, I think this is blown way out of proportion. I think this is a very small group of the Star Wars fandom, but people love to jump on Star Wars fans like, oh, look, they're not happy with anything. Look, they hate female protagonists. They hate strong female protagonists. No, I think these things just get blown out of proportion by Twitter. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think where there is a reasonable disappointment in this is around the fact that this is the first modern Star Wars open world game. So I think a lot of people, myself included, we're hoping that we would be able to live out our own Star Wars adventure and create our character from scratch and really try to immerse ourselves into this universe. So I definitely think it's fair that some people were upset that they were going to be playing as a named protagonist in an open world game that they've been kind of hoping for forever, with Star Wars being able to jump from planet to planet, being able to choose a faction, being able to choose what you look like, what you got to wear. But that was an expectation that we put on the game, so that's a little bit unfair. And regardless, some of my favorite open world games of all time, with some of my favorite stories in video games, were surrounding a named protagonist. I think of Ghost of Tsushima with Jin, and I think of Red Dead Redemption 2 with Arthur Morgan. Those were incredibly impactful stories because you got to know the protagonist over 60, 70 hours of gameplay. And those games were written so richly with great dialogue and great supporting characters that just filled out the entire world. And when those games ended, especially Red Dead Redemption 2, I was like lost because I wasn't able to play as like those characters again. And I didn't get to feel their story for the first time. So I'm really excited to get to know Kay and to see how she interacts with others, see how she grows in this universe, in this galaxy full of turmoil and also opportunity. And of course, how she interacts with her great companions that have been shown to us. We have Nyx, who is a new alien dog type species, and they're going to be a pivotal part of the gameplay, which I'm really excited about to see how they integrate that kind of companion gameplay. Again, it does feel like a bit of a ripoff of BD1 and Cal from Jedi Survivor because this is a small dog. It lives on your shoulder. It goes out and does things for you. But I think where BD is just a supporting unit that just gives you health or opens doors for you, it looks like Nyx is going to be more involved in the actual gameplay and combat, which I think is a good thing to have. And then we have this commando droid. I think his name is DN. And he has just taken the internet by storm. A lot of people are very sexually attracted to him because he's this huge hulking commando droid with a sweet trench coat, and he like rolls up his sleeve like a big muscular guy. And he has a really cool voice. So yeah, excited to get to know him and his story. But I do think the commando droid as a companion is a really cool idea, and I'm excited to see how he helps out in combat and gameplay encounters if they do integrate him in that way. But I think I talked enough about the setup and the characters and the story overall. Let's talk about the gameplay that we got to see. Ubisoft is very hit or miss when it comes to gameplay. I feel like a lot of their past games have been very cookie cutter, very generic, and their open worlds can feel pretty bland because they just become these checklist activities where you have all of these side quests, all of these main quests, and you just go down the line like, gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this, and the maps are just full of icons. I really hope that they take this opportunity to switch up and try something new. And I think this gameplay reveal gives me a spark of hope in that arena. I think the blaster gameplay we saw overall reminded me a lot of Star Wars 1313, the famously announced, gameplay revealed, and then canceled Star Wars project from probably 10 years ago now. I think the shooting felt both weighty and also floaty at some moments. Like in some moments it felt like every shot was a punch and you were hitting a target and it was kicking back and it felt really cool. And then in other moments, it was a bit more floaty, kind of like you were shooting like a marshmallow cannon. So hopefully they continue to refine that over the next year or two. I think it's a delicate balance with blaster gameplay because you are shooting a blaster, an energy bolt. So it's not a bullet, but you also want it to feel like it has an impact. So I think it's a delicate dance they have to figure out there. But I do like what we saw here overall. I'm very glad they aren't doing the Rockstar Red Dead Redemption 2 route where it's a very aim assist heavy game where you just press aim and it goes right to the person's head. So I like that it's definitely free flowing combat in the shooting arena. And it seems like you'll have different tools and gadgets. Right now they just showed us the different blaster fire settings for your gun where you have your lethal, you have your stun, and then you have your focus where she actually disarmed a shield, which was pretty cool. Hopefully you get a shield at one point or you can have the option to have a shield at one point. They did show some stealth and melee combat that I hope they get to build out a bit more than just sneaking up behind and punching someone in the face or hitting someone with the butt of your gun. I hope you eventually get maybe an electro staff or something like that along those lines where you can almost build out an entirely melee-based build. I think that would be really cool and you not just have to rely on the blaster all the time. But what really stuck out to me from the firefight was Nyx being able to go out and pick up weapons for you, pick up health for you. So there's this element of player's choice, and I'm sure there's a risk reward to sending Nyx out there to go pick something up for you, but I thought it was really cool. Nyx could distract, attack, or move the environment around you, or he can go pick up a blaster and he brings you back this heavy blaster and Kay shoots it all around the room and then it runs out and she just throws it on the ground. I thought that was really cool. She doesn't like keep the blaster, she just uses it. When it's done, it's done. So I think this shooting section really did its job. I think it showed a very early build. It showed you very early on in the game, and you have a couple tools, but I think they'll very much expand that. There's so many gadgets to have out there, wrist rockets, rope casts like on the wrist, like Boba Fett. I think all that would be really cool to bring into an open world Star Wars game, and I think it would feel right at home in a bounty hunter underground type world. So then we move on to the more open world aspect of the game, and this part got me really excited but also really nervous because it is promising a lot here. You leave the indoor arena, you get outside, you seamlessly get on a speeder bike, you drive all the way into the city. There's no frame drops, there's nothing like that. You have a cutscene, but then she comes back outside, she gets right into a ship, the ship takes off seamlessly and goes out of the atmosphere. You escape Imperials, and then you hit the hyperdrive. Sorry, I just had to paint the full picture there because all of that is a lot to ask a video game system to do, and I hope that they could deliver on that promise because they are going fully next-gen exclusive, so it'll be in development only on the PS5 and the Series X, so I'm hoping that the next-gen hardware will allow them to pull these things off. And Ubisoft is known to launch with bugs and a lot of glitches in their games. So this is a area to be really excited for, but also with the track record of what Ubisoft has done, I would be cautiously optimistic about it being able to run this smoothly where you can literally walk onto your ship, take off, fly through the atmosphere. But it's a year and a half away, so we'll see. But what I really want to highlight here is the bounty system and the choice system. So it seems like at the end of the quest, when you leave the Pike Syndicate area and you successfully escape, your reputation with the Pike Syndicate goes down. And I think that's a really cool element to bring to this game, that you kind of have to juggle where you stand with all these different crime syndicates. Where are you with the Black Sun? Where are you with the Pike Syndicate? Where are you with Jabba the Hutt? Are you in their good graces? Are you going to get more contracts from them? Are you going to be sworn enemies to them? I think there's a lot of quest lines that you can kind of play out in those different arenas. Like if you're aligned with Jabba the Hutt, you probably have a lot of resources, but you're also probably on everyone's target list. But if you're for the Pike Syndicate, maybe there's some benefits to aligning with them. Or there's also the route where you're good with none of them and you can double cross them and do whatever you want. So I think a reputation system is really cool here. And I hope that they flesh it out as much as they're promising here with this just little encounter where it's like the Pike Syndicate now doesn't look fondly upon you and you might not get contracts with them. And then you have the Empire and where you are on the Empire's radar. And that comes in with the cutscene where you have an option to bribe an Imperial officer or not bribe them. And they choose not to bribe them, and they essentially get the Imperial military called on her, and she has to escape. And I think this is all very cinematic. Again, I don't know if this is part of the quest line or if this is just seamless in-world gameplay. I think this is very much a quest line section, but it would be really amazing if these type of cinematic moments will just come about in random encounters. Will the Empire just get called in out of nowhere because you're a part of a Pike heist? And you're taking care of the Pike heist, and then you realize the Empire's on you, and then you got to get out of there, and then you can escape, and maybe you get to the other end, and the Hutts or the Black Sun are on the other end of your hyperspace jump, and they're pissed at you, or something like that, or they want to rob you because they know you were stealing something for the Pikes. My brain is just going a million miles an hour because I think there's so many cool opportunities with the underworld. It's not just black and white. It's not just rebels and Empire. It's so many different factions, and all of them are the scum and villainy of the galaxy. So you can't trust anyone. So I think this is just a really cool playground if they stick the landing and they can deliver on these huge promises of what they've shown so far. I think the space combat, we just get a little bit of it. I think it's serviceable. It seems like you have a couple weapon systems. I couldn't tell if you have control of your shields and if you can kind of swap between shields and weapon systems, kind of like in Squadrons. I think that would be really cool. I don't think you'll be able to customize the ship too much other than like the paint job and maybe the inside, but that would also be a fun aspect of customization that they could give to the players. But I really, really like the hyperdrive countdown. You have to escape in a certain amount of time, the Empire's on you, and you have to kind of avoid hyperdriving right into rubble or another ship. So you have to move to the left or move to the right, and the countdown stops when you move. I think it's really cool that that can be a very tense moment of gameplay. A lot of risk, a lot of reward. You're kind of a sitting duck. And on that piece, maybe if you're stealing something or you have a bounty and they destroy you in that moment, you maybe lose all those credits. And there's this, again, risk reward system where you can get away with all the credits, or you can sit and fight, or if you lose everything. You lose that whole heist that you just committed. So again, there's a lot of things they can do with this. I think the last thing I want to discuss is just that Kay was very likable in this first 10-minute trailer. She is exactly what you would think of as someone that's just surviving and scraping by. I really like the moment when she punches the guy in the face and she like shakes her hand, and you realize she's just like a normal person. She's not this skilled bounty hunter, and she's really just figuring this all out. I think the banter throughout the gameplay is good overall. I hope it doesn't fall into the PlayStation protagonist thing where there's so much talking during combat that it gets annoying. So hopefully that's just to show us a piece of her personality, and in the gameplay it tones down a little, but I still do like having that personality weaved into the gameplay, so it's not just a shooting gallery with no stakes or no jokes or anything like that. So hopefully they strike a nice balance there, but I really did enjoy her character here, and I'm excited to see where she goes and how she navigates the galaxy. And they did show a couple planets. It seemed like 2 were from the sequel era. I think Canto Bight was one of them. The gameplay trailer takes place on a new planet, a new world. Unfortunately, I think the Tatooine effect is expanding throughout Star Wars now, because this new world they show feels very much like Kobo, just very rocky, very Saharan terrain. And I just want them to get a little bit more creative. I think they show a bunch of different worlds where there's like a snow planet, there's a more tropical area, a lush area. Like I want to see more of that, because again, we had so much Tatooine. I think Tatooine's in this, but it's very justified. You know Jabba the Hutt's going to be a part of this. You know you're going to have to go to Tatooine. Like, I get it, but I really want them to be more creative with the planets, and I think it's a nice suite of what they showed today. Hopefully it's not just these 4 or 5 planets. Hopefully it feels really expansive. I know you have to limit it somewhere because there's so many resources, but I'm curious to see how big these planets are. It felt like this was very on rails. The gameplay we saw today was very, there was one road in, one road out. Didn't see many off-roads to explore, but I'm hoping that these planets are pretty expansive, but also have a lot of stuff to explore, whether there's a cave system or some old relics or places that you can loot or steal ancient artifacts and sell them. I hope that's all integrated into these planets, and hopefully when it says open world, it means there's a lot of different planets, but maybe the planets are a bit smaller themselves. I'd much rather have a bunch of different terrain than having 3 or 4 huge planets. I really like diversity in gameplay, so hoping that's what they lean more towards, and the planets that they showed today are just, the opening, just the beginning, and it seems like there's an opportunity for some type of space encounters / planet / map. So maybe there's asteroid fields, or maybe there's some space stations outside that you get to visit. We see a derelict station here where it's all blown up and the Empire's there. So I think there's a lot of opportunity with space combat too. I think just overall, there's a lot that they can do here, and you always have to be cautiously optimistic with Ubisoft. Will they take that extra step? Will they take that next leap forward in the making of their games and not be cookie cutter? Really build this out, because I know with a Star Wars game, with the Star Wars title, you can really phone it in if you wanted to. You know it's going to sell. But hopefully they take their time. Hopefully they really flesh out all these ideas and more that I mentioned here in this episode today. And if they need to delay it, just delay it. We do not need this game to release like Jedi Survivor. I'd much, much rather not have an open world game that is extremely buggy release and then it just destroys the review scores and all the hype around the game. Just take your time with this. It's an open world Star Wars game. It's gonna sell. And if you release it and it gets an 85 or an 8 because there's bugs in it, but the story's great, compared to if you release it and it's fully polished and you get a 9, 9.5, game of the year type talks, just go for that, please. Just take your time. Ubisoft, please. I have no idea how this studio is releasing this and the Avatar game, like, within 6 months. I have no idea how big their studio is. This is incredible that they're releasing 2 massive franchise-type open-world games together. It kind of makes me scared for resource allocation. I don't know which is getting more, if they're both getting the same. I'm assuming the Star Wars one's getting more because Avatar isn't as big in the video game space. But Avatar looked really cool, and this looked really cool. So I don't know. I'm very skeptical that they'll be able to release two amazing games, but we'll see in 2024. Maybe it'll be late 2024, so they'll have another year, a full team polish on it. So these are all my thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed my takeaways from the gameplay, maybe things that you missed that I was able to bring up or point out to you so you can go back and watch for yourself. And hopefully some of the things I brought up you get excited about or maybe looking forward to too, and hopefully Ubisoft is implementing them. But as always, I want to hear from you guys. When Star Wars video game talk comes around, you guys always want to interact and you're always reaching out. So I love talking about video games and Star Wars. So please reach out at star_wars_mark of balance. What did you guys think of the trailer? What are you hoping for? All that. So as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and may the Force be with you. Peace.